webinar. Let's just wait for that to get started. I'll tell you, I'm trying to join. It's going to start soon. I'm checking on LinkedIn, and it says starting soon. So I wonder why it's... Hold on. One more second, folks. Live stream. Stop. Oh, well. Pre-live. Click to join. I just want all our friends on LinkedIn. It says starting soon. I wonder, does anybody know how... Henry, are you on? Henry? There we go. Checking on LinkedIn. It says starting soon. Yeah, see how slow I am? 1 second, folks. Live stream. There we go. Okay. Click to join. I just want all our friends. Okay, give me 1 more second, and thank you for your patience. I actually am a noob at this, apparently. This live stream took a long time to go, and it's working. I'm so happy. Darcy, welcome.
Well, thank you, Spencer. So great to be with you.
So great to be with you. Every time I see you, I get so fired up because you have such great energy. You're so enthusiastic.
I love the time we have spent together, both professionally and personally, hiking and doing other fun adventures.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me all the way from Madison, Wisconsin. Is that right?
That's right.
So, I think I was trying to think of the first time that you and I met, and I think it was we were in Las Vegas at a National Speakers Association conference. Is that right?
Yep.
And I remember sitting at a table, and for those of you who don't know Darcy, she is, first of all, she's absolutely amazing. I'm going to share some of her accolades here in just a moment. But when we were sitting at this table together, and I had never met her before, she's just so friendly, she's so nice, she's so humble. And I remember all my friends coming up, and she's like, "Who is this bald dude?" But I got to know her, and she, just on the spot, I said, "Hey, I love to go on hikes." She says, "Oh my gosh, hikes, I'm in." And we went out into Red Rock Canyon. Is that right? And we just the two of us at like 5 a.m, totally trusted me, and we went and hiked around Red Rock Canyon for a couple of 90 or 2 hours or something.
A couple hours before the conference started, and I loved it.
Darcy, let me talk a little bit about you to those who are listening. Darcy is a certified coach in so many different ways, like a CPCC, and she is a master certified coach. She's an ORSCC or relationship certified coach. I don't even know what an MSOD is. What does that stand for?
That's a Master's of Science in Organization Development.
Of course it is. And then she's also a certified speaking professional, which is how I know her, through the National Speakers Association. And together we have had the opportunity to go to many conferences. Last year we were in Arizona, and so she invited me to go with all her friends. She's like this triathlete guru. Every time I talk to her, she's like, "Yeah, I just ran a marathon. Yeah, I just climbed a mountain." So we went on this little hike, and I could not keep up with them. So I did the short trip, and they did like 4 miles. And
you did the straight up.
Yeah, but I could do it slowly. And so we just have so much fun. But let me share the rest of these amazing accolades. And she's the CEO of Darcy Luoma Coaching and Consulting, in a company that specializes in creating high-performing people and teams. And she is absolutely a sought-after coach and consultant who has worked for 48 industries and teams, and she's worked with more than 500 organizations, and impacting tens of thousands of leaders and employees. And she's also the author, and I didn't bring it, I have it here in my office, of Thoughtfully Fit, because she is just this healthy person. She wants to share that with everybody. And she's been coaching since 2004, and she's one of America's, I think that needs to be the world's most highly credentialed coaches. and having earned this prestigious Master Certified Coach certification with the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, really less than 4% of coaches get to the Master Certified Coach level. Darcy, is that right?
When I got it, it was. I don't know what the current statistic is.
Yeah, and she's also like we said, this master of organizational development, and she has served variously as the program's director, a lead instructor, a director of training, quality assurance. I mean, she's done so many things, and she founded the business that you have right now in 2013. And you've also worked in government. You worked with U.S. Senator Herb Kohl for 12 years, so you know not only the private side, but you know the public side of business. And so when I have been wanting to get Darcy to get on with me for the longest time, but you got to get way ahead of her calendar. So thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
So, Darcy, would you do us a favor? Tell us a little bit what got you into, first of all, why coaching, and then why team coaching?
Yeah, so first 20 years of my career I spent in politics. And when I first started doing my master's degree at Pepperdine University, long story short, but the bottom line, I ended up doing my master's thesis on the impact of life coaching on overall satisfaction, life satisfaction. I spent 2 years doing a deep dive and research, and the results were so powerful. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. That was in 2004, 2003, 4-ish. So that was like, I need to do more. So I went deep and started all the different training programs and certifications that you just rattled off the alphabet soup. When I I designed the professional coach training program at UW-Madison in 2012. And after I did that, I got certified in organization and relationship systems coaching. So to answer your first question, I love coaching because it is so powerful. I also do consulting and mentoring and teaching and advising, but everything I do leads with coaching. That is my default because it is so much more effective. So when I started to work with individuals and leaders and directors, what I started to notice was, and this is what you and I were talking about earlier, is that they might make some progress in how they're communicating and their level of emotional intelligence and conflict and how they're holding their employees accountable. And yet the dynamics on the team were not shifting in a significant way because they were one member of this larger team. And that's where I started to get intrigued with how can we make a bigger impact in the culture and in the organization and in those teams? That's when I went and got trained and certified to work with systems and more than one, right? So 2 plus plus plus. And what I found, Spencer, is it's exponentially harder. And the results.
So describe that. What do you mean it was exponentially harder? I mean, what goes on when you're working with a team of people? Are they just more challenging, or is there more to pay attention to? Obviously, I mean that seems like the basic question, right?
Yes. So a couple of things. And we work with teams so the challenge could be because there are so many different personalities and there's tension. And maybe it's a dysfunctional team, or maybe they've ignored the tension and it's all the way to having lots of toxins, blaming, criticism. Dr. Gottman talks about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the four toxins, blaming, criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, contempt. And so when you're coaching a team, well, I'll give an example. When I was going through my certification and training, I was coaching a team of 5, a nonprofit leadership team.
Yeah.
And I sent in the recording to my supervisor. I thought I did fabulously. And she tore it apart because what I was doing was having an individual coaching conversation with each member of the team separately, but I was not holding the system and I was not coaching the client, the entity as a whole. And so she said, when you were coaching and talking to this person, you were so dialed into them that everybody else got tuned out. And I think some people got defensive because it looked like you were on her side. When you are team coaching, you have to hold the system. And that was such a blind spot for me. And so that's one example of why it's so much more complex. So first of all, you have to hold the system, and then you have these different personalities. You have some people who are extroverts and want to process externally. You have some people who are introverts and they process more internally. You have tensions, and you have to figure out. Now I'm working currently with a team of 19 that happens to be in a municipal government, and there is a lack of trust. There is deep-seated conflict. And so trying to hold the system instead of just helping one new person have new awareness, you have to help the whole system create some new systems awareness.
Okay, so this is so important, and I'm certified team performance coach as well. I mean, I understand the system today, but I cannot say that when I started learning about coaching that I understood the system right away. Can you? We keep throwing that out there that you didn't coach the system. What does that mean? How do you do that? What
Yeah.
I mean, make that, maybe use a some type of a metaphor or equivalent, because I think people think of a system and they think, okay, well, there's a bunch of people in the room. But what do you mean by a system? And you and I didn't prep for this. I'm just throwing stuff at you. So,
Yeah.
and I know you can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's unique when each system, team, entity, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
has its own unique personality, its own
Let's call it
identity.
its own teamness.
Yes. Yes. And that teamness has an identity, a personality that is different. So if you are on a nonprofit board and you serve on that team, it has a feeling, an identity, a personality that's different than if you go to the leadership committee that you're on at church. That has a different personality, a different dynamic. And
A different
so
way of interacting and communicating and working and dealing with the toxins or the conflict, if you will.
yeah, and different, exactly. And so systems, teams are in a constant state of emergence and a constant state of change because of all these different players that are on the team. So when you're coaching the system, the team, just like if you're coaching an individual, you're holding them as the expert. I'm not the expert coming in and saying, here, let me tell you what to do. That's a mentor. That's a teacher. That's a facilitator. I'm the
That's a
expert.
consultant.
That's a consultant. When I'm coaching an individual, they're the expert. They're the one who knows what they want, what their goals are, their values, what the obstacles, what's getting in the way.
Yeah.
The same is true when you're working with a system. The system, the team has wisdom of what's getting in the way, what's frustrating, what's trying to emerge. When you coach a team, you don't look at conflict as a negative. You look at it as something that's trying to shift in the system, something that isn't working. And so you get curious and you hold the team as the expert. They are innately generative and capable. And so you're looking at how
But
to
wait a
help the
minute, wait a minute.
system.
They're dysfunctional and need you.
Yes, and
So
both
why
are
would you
true.
then say that they are capable and generative? That I mean, I love that you say that. And so say more about that. I mean, why are they not? How come they're stuck if they need you?
Yes, there's often, I mean, there's lots of reasons they get stuck.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, what happens, I'll give one example is they get well-worn ruts. So there's different roles in that system. And one person is the role of the devil's advocate, and they're always playing the devil's advocate. And once you start having these roles, they get well-worn ruts. And that becomes the path of least resistance. That becomes what's most comfortable. So when I come in, the reason I'm holding them as the expert is because I don't know
They
where
know
they
where the
get stuck.
landmines are.
They know
They
the
know where the dead
landmines.
bodies are buried.
Yes. They know the elephants that they're dancing and tiptoeing around and
Yes.
avoiding. And
Yes.
so, if I can create a psychologically safe space for them to be able to explore and say what those elephants are,
Yeah.
what the landmines are, and then they say, oh, yeah, that's what's hard. I don't know. I'm not the expert in their team. I'm an expert in team dynamics.
Yeah.
They're the expert in their team and their dynamics.
I love that you've clarified that. When you say they're the expert, they're obviously challenged or broken, so how could they be the expert? They're the expert in what's going on, but sometimes they actually see themselves?
Yes. And let me say one thing before I answer that.
Yeah.
Team coaching isn't just for broken teams. It's not just
No?
for dysfunctional teams. It's not just for toxic teams. There are teams who are really good and they want to be great. There are teams who are newly forming and they want to supercharge and get through the storming phase faster to get to norming and performing. So I don't want to give the impression
I
that if a
love,
team
I
is in
love, love,
coaching,
love that you say that. I mean, one of my first team coaching clients was the Inc. 5000's 12th fastest growing company. And they were like, we want to be better.
yes, and they're probably having growing pains.
Yes, they were high performing, but they're like, we need some help. As a matter of fact, they were exactly what you talked about in that storming phase, which is sometimes when you're a new young company, once everybody's kind of figured out, what the rules are, they start pushing and say, what's possible? What are our boundaries? And then you start stepping on each other. And so then it becomes uncomfortable and we don't know, are we a dysfunctional organization now? No, it's very normal. It's kind of it's like you're in an adolescent phase, right?
And not only is it no, here's the dichotomy or the paradox is the highest performing teams have a lot of diversity of personalities and styles and experience. That diversity is what makes it challenging. Oh, why do you're always talking about the big picture and what's possible because they're a visionary. I'm an analyst. I want the weeds. I want the numbers. Of course, we have tension and conflict. You've got the person who's the nurturer, who's like, let's make sure the process allows for all voices, with the person who is the closer. Like, I don't care about the process. Are we getting the outcome? So you need all of those personalities to thrive, and all those personalities are what creates tension.
They're naturally in conflict.
Yes.
Actually, because of the positions and the personalities, they are naturally in tension with each other, right?
Yeah.
And so
And, and
so what's your job then?
yeah, so the job is to help them create awareness to go through the phases of understanding. When a team comes together, they're newly forming, it's like, yay, oh, this is so great. You don't know where the frustrations and tensions are. You're just excited you're a new team. Then you get into that storming, and it's like the things that I love, like you're so visionary. All of a sudden, I'm annoyed because you're always dreaming instead of dealing with reality. So
Exactly.
so in that storming phase, I'm now annoyed at those differences. In coaching, you want to help them work through those stages of team development, Dr. Bruce Tuckman's model of then getting to norming, which is instead of in the storming where you're annoyed with those differences, you're starting to accept those differences and understand them. And then when you get to performing, you're not just tolerating the differences. You're not only accepting, you're actually maximizing and saying, hey, you know what, Spencer, you're really a big visionary. We got this problem. Can you come in? Let's think about
Which
it.
is actually good in the forming stage, right? The certain personalities thrive in different stages,
Yeah.
and it's the people who are really good at communicating, maybe those extroverts, that you need in the storming phase to let everybody know it's going to be okay. And
Yeah, and then so that's what the role of the coach is, to help the system understand those unique
dynamics.
personalities. What are the dynamics of this team? And then intentionally decide, how do we want to be as a team? Because there's always a culture on a team. It's whether or not it's intentional.
So
And if
so
it's not,
you have said that this diversity is a strength, but you haven't explained that yet. So far, you've just talked about the tension. And I keep interrupting you. That's probably why. But talk about. So I have heard, Darcy, that that when it comes to simple problems, it's actually better if you have kind of a not a, I'm trying to think of the word, not uniform, but similar or homogeneous type of team. But when the problems are complex and challenging, before you kind of come together and converge on a solution, you have to diverge. In other words, you need the devil's advocate, you need the challenging voices. Otherwise, the solutions are incomplete. I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, how do you harness those differences into a strength?
Yes. Um, there's like six different directions I can go with that. So
Sorry.
let me just be thoughtful that when you're working with a team, every member of that team has a voice, and the goal is to they have a voice. There's a voice of the system,
Yeah,
even the marginalized voices, even the unpopular ones.
yeah.
And so when you have the devil's advocate and you have the person who has 30 years of experience, and then you have the new team member who's brand new, never been in it, there can be frustration.
Idealistic, thinking what the world should be like.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. You've got the devil's advocate and then you've got the optimist. And it's like, in in order to get the best results, all of those voices have wisdom of what's needed. So the person who's been there 30 years and says, well, we've tried that before, we can't do that, it never worked, they would they need the voice of the person who says, yeah, that was 30 years ago. Let me tell you now with AI or with, the world as it is today, why I think it might be beneficial for us to explore that. And
Yeah.
so that diversity of personalities, of styles, of expertise, of background is critical to get the best results.
I love that, and I am just having so much fun with this conversation, Darcy. I've just gotten carried away, and we have listeners that are joining us from all over the world right now on LinkedIn. And I got a little distracted in the beginning. I'm so grateful you were talking because somehow my computer, once I was trying to check LinkedIn, I couldn't make it shut up, and so I had to turn down on my voice and was reading your lips, and it was a disaster over here. But now it's all under control, and so now I can think. So I'd love for you, if you're listening, I know that you're watching on LinkedIn, many of you, and then we've got some people that have joined us here on Zoom. Tell us where you are listening from, and by the way, as we're talking, if you have a question for Darcy or I, please put it in the comments in LinkedIn or in the chat here. So tell us where you're. Listen, Juliet, my friend from Birmingham, Alabama. So glad you're here. Love you, my friend, and say hello to your incredible husband. Yes, tell us where you're calling in from. I know we have a few people from outside the United States, and if we're talking too fast, let us know. We'll slow down because we are excited people. And I'm just looking for the comments. So, the thesis of today, let me just share it on my screen, is expanding your practice into team coaching. Who is who is a good candidate to learn the skill of team coaching?
Anyone who, well, first of all, I think it's going to be an easier adjustment if you already have core knowledge of coaching competencies and principles. In other words, holding presence, asking powerful questions, mirroring back, instead of coming in with oftentimes new coaches when I'm training or mentoring new coaches, they think, but if I know the answer, shouldn't I give it? Isn't that better? So I think that's going to be helpful going from an individual already having those insights of the core competencies of coaching before you go
Yeah.
into team coaching. Did you want to comment on that?
No, yeah, I've heard the person who say, I know the answer, I want to give it. I've been that person,
Yeah.
and it's not the way to go because I mean, whose ideas are you more bought into, yours or mine?
Absolutely. And just because it worked for you doesn't mean that that solution is going to work for someone else because
Yeah.
they have different obstacles, different reality, different values. So,
So you may be great at facilitating or consulting or training. And what do you notice with a lot of those programs that, let's say we need a communication training, we need a communication workshop, we need a conflict training. How does that work?
it's funny you say that because my colleague Jill Miller wrote an ebook called "Workshops Don't Work." It's on our website, and it was edgy because we do workshops, we do trainings, but
Yeah,
if
but you
you
do them
want
in isolation.
if you but they are not going to shift the dynamics for the long term. They're going
Yeah.
to raise some awareness, they're going to create a shared vocabulary, they might give you a tool, but if you really want to shift the culture and the dynamics, workshops as a one-off don't work.
You and I are also keynote speakers, right? And so we speak to audiences over the world. So, what is the purpose of a keynote? Why would then companies pay for us to come in and speak for 60 minutes if a keynote or a workshop or a training doesn't work?
Yeah, what's I think important to distinguish there, a keynote, a training, there is a purpose, there is a benefit, there is an ability for the people in that audience to have some new awareness, to be able to leave with a new skill, to be able to try something new they haven't tried before because they're like, oh, this is so good. In a keynote, being able to shift their thinking and their perspective,
Yeah.
that is very powerful. And when you are working with a system and with a team, knowledge isn't enough.
That's right.
You have to look at how, I mean, how does that play out? If you could read 50 books on high performing teams, but if you are not applying within your team those principles together, your dynamics are not going to shift just because you have the knowledge about what it takes to be a high performing team.
You and I were talking before we got started, and one of the things that I mentioned was I have seen and I have experienced chief executive officer or senior leader or whatever you want to call it. They worked with a coach and they created shifts personally. They gained knowledge, as you just said, personally, and then they go back to the team. And what happens is they don't understand how to shift the team. They have the knowledge, but they can't make that knowledge that they have in their personal behavior impact the entire team. They don't know how to do that.
Yeah,
And
I'll give you
so
an example.
oftentimes that coaching really doesn't change or create the transformation that they hoped.
Yeah, yeah, and I was working with a manufacturing firm, coaching the CEO, and that was really great. We had a coaching plan and the goals
Yeah.
and what he was working on, and yet he alone could not shift the dynamics of his ELT, executive leadership team. And so he said, I keep hitting a dead end. I don't. So it wasn't until we did the team coaching and we started off by doing a team diagnostic saying, okay, let's have everybody on this team first. I think there were 13 members on this ELT. Take this diagnostic to see what's their perspective, because the original perspective is one perspective of the system. It is not the truth. And so when the CEO comes in and says, here's the problem we're having,
It's just her perspective.
that's right. And so that the diagnostic lets us see from a systems lens, how do the other members feel about how this team is doing with accountability, with respect, with trust, with leadership.
And so that's really important. So when they see the data, how do they react?
uh, Lots of different ways.
Because now it's not just because they don't always trust the boss, but when they say, listen, this is everybody's perspective.
Yep. And that's one of the things when we're doing team coaching, we do a qualitative and quantitative assessment. For the qualitative, we're doing the team diagnostic, and that's giving the actual numbers so they can see. It's like, this isn't This isn't me. This is what you all are saying. This is the results of this team. And then the excuse me, that was I got to mix up quantitative. The qualitative, I'm individually interviewing each person
Yes.
confidentially, anonymously, and then putting together an assessment saying, here's the themes on what I heard. And how do they react? Sometimes there's shock. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example, Spencer. When I come in and first working with the team, I'll say, okay, here's what we saw. Here's the top three themes, for instance, and then I'll say, I want you to constellate on this system. I want you to say, stand over here if you 100% agree with theme number one. Theme number one might be we have a lack of trust. Stand over here. If you absolutely disagree, you're going to stand over on this end. And then somewhere along the line, if you're like, oh, I kind of disagree, kind of agree. So immediately we get everybody to stand up on the line, and you can see, we call it, you vote with your feet.
It's a visual. It's a visual scattergram of how their perspectives to see
Yes.
the diversity in or the disagreement around an idea.
Yeah, because the CEO who's standing here saying, I think we have great trust, and the VP of operations is over here saying we have no trust. It's like, well, what's true? Both are true.
They both are true. And I love that you do that. I actually do that. There's a segment of the diagnostic, and I'll show you in a moment, where we find where the team has the most disagreement and the most agreement. And I actually like them to stand up. And what I do find is that that's a little bit different than what they answered on the survey, because now everybody's watching them, right? And so, but it gives, if you've created enough psychological safety, it's okay for somebody to go over to one and say, I think we have a problem with this, and for the person to say, I think it's a 9. I think we're doing great at this. And then we hear those voices, and everybody's like, oh, now we're in a place where we can actually hear the voices where we couldn't before.
Yes, and the whole goal,
Instead of the conversation at the water cooler, it's here.
correct. The whole goal is to reveal the system to itself.
What does that mean? And Frank, I see your question. I'll get to you. Explain, what does that mean to reveal the system to itself?
Because everybody has their own perspective and they think their perspective is the truth.
Yeah.
And it is not the truth for the system, it is their truth. But that's all it is. And so, what is key is to help other people see the systems, how the right. So for instance, we were talking at the beginning about going hiking. I was out for a hike in Arizona. My dad told me where to go. I wanted to get to the wind cave, and he's like, "Your cell phone's not going to work, so I'm going to draw on a napkin what to do." And I get up early and I'm hiking and I'm hiking and I'm hiking and I'm hiking. And after like 3 hours, I finally see two women coming the other way, and I'm like, "Hey, oh my God, am I close to the wind cave?" They both answered at exactly the same moment. The first one said, "Yes, it's just around the corner." The other woman said, "Oh, no." They had both come from exactly the same place, but their perspectives were different. Now, had I not stopped them and asked that question, they probably never would have known that they had different perspectives based on their own experience. One of them might have been hungover, dehydrated, not as fit, right? Who knows what? But both perspectives are true and they're wildly different. So with the system, the goal is reveal the system to itself so you can understand what are the different perspectives here.
And it's so you can even have people that with the same perspective but say it differently. And for example, my wife and I are exact opposites, and I'll say something and she responds, and I said, "That's exactly what I said in your language." No, it's not the same thing, but we're saying the same thing. So we just have all these differences, and once we get to see those differences and we recognize them, what does that do for the team once they become aware of themselves? And here's why this is, I think, important, because you talked about coaching the executive and it didn't make an impact, but then all of a sudden you start coaching the system, and what happens in a very short period of time?
Yeah, and And I'll just slightly adjust what you said because coaching executive, it's not that it doesn't make a difference.
It does make a difference.
It does make a difference. And how that executive is leading and showing up and getting curious and right handling.
Sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
It's not making it as quickly as they want.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now I of course lost the question. Can you ask me
So
again?
so just in terms of why it didn't shift everything quickly, and why when the team is all of a sudden now aware of their own teamness or their own system, what happens, and how quickly can things shift?
Yeah, I mean, in the example I'm giving you of this manufacturing firm, the boss of the CEO had one perspective, and he said, "This is what's getting in the way of us being high performing. We are not bold enough. We have to be, we have to be more assertive." He's a high D on the disc.
Yeah,
He's like, so do the assessment, quantitative, qualitative, and what we find out is there is fear on the team because when they are bold, he shuts them down and says, "That's not, that's we've tried that, or that's not good, or what." And so the dynamics
they
aren't
actually
that.
get punished for being bold.
Yeah. And so again, until he's aware, the whole team is aware of what are the dynamics that are getting in the way of this team being able to have a safe space for all that boldness to show up. He can say all he wants. You need to be more bold. Or Darcy, come in and do a workshop telling people how to have their voice, how to be more assertive. That's fine. We can do that. And that workshop might work in helping people understand how to be more assertive. And in that team with that dynamic, they are not going to do it because
That's
it's
right.
not safe.
So that's the question Frank asks. Why doesn't the workshop work? Is it because the transition is too slow? It's because the dynamics that require the new communication skills to flourish are not conducive to that happening. And it's actually in many cases worse because now I know how to communicate and I still can't because I'm being shut down. And so now my reaction is actually more negative towards the leader in many cases.
Yeah.
That's the challenge with a lot of workshops is we become more aware, but we don't have the environment to actually exercise these new skills and knowledge because they are punished by the system because the system always wins. I'm going to just tell a quick story. I worked for a leadership training development company in Las Vegas, started in 2008. By 2012, I became the CEO of that company. I was the fourth CEO in 5 years. They'd been in business for over 30 years. And they had just a very intense culture. It was just a way of doing everything. And I as an individual bucked that all along the way. And I thought, okay, they now see my brilliance and the fact that I can bring a change where all the other leaders before did not. And I got put in that role and I had the exact same failure as everyone else because I attempted to work with all the individuals and share my knowledge and my approach, and I never addressed the system. And literally 3 months ago, I interviewed on my podcast somebody that was hired as an outside expert to come work at that company now 15 years later. She lasted a month. And I said, describe your experience. She described the exact same system I left 15 years ago.
Wow.
It hasn't changed, and they're still floundering. They've replaced CEOs. They've replaced I don't know how many people. But it's like this dynamic will not die because no one's addressed it. And so you can bring in the smartest people with all the knowledge that they hired specifically for this change-making ability, and they couldn't change it.
Mm-hmm. Powerful.
So I want to share a few things, and then I want, as I'm doing this, I want to show some of what the diagnostic looks like. I want to show some data, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit about me. Again, the thesis of this is expanding your skills. If you are a learning and development expert, maybe you are a workshop facilitator, maybe you are an HR person, or maybe you're an executive coach or a personal coach, and you want to expand your skills. Hopefully, we're giving you some reasons for learning about team coaching because the skill set that you have as a team coach make you absolutely invaluable. So I want to share a little bit of data that about team coaching and why we exist. I mean, we started 20 years ago in 2006, and at the time, the coaching world was focused on the individual, as we've been talking about. It was relationship coaching, and most of it was life coaching. And about 20 plus years ago, we started to see. Correct me if I'm wrong, Darcy. You started coaching in 2004, right?
Correct.
Um, was there a shift to more, like, call it more corporate or organizational or executive training, or was it always that? I mean, was it started out in one way and kind of and change a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, it was life coaching was
Life
prominent.
coaching,
Was
yeah, and
prominent.
that's what I understood. And we have people like our founders, Phil Sandahl, worked for CTI, which was all about relationship coaching, personal coaching. And Alexis Phillips, who was our other founder, said, "How do we get families? How do we get teams to change?" And it was this idea of a system, and she wasn't alone. There are people around the world that were thinking of how do we take this idea and apply it to organizations and systems. She happened to be one of the first to create a diagnostic, the team diagnostic, 20 years ago. And Phil saw this, and he saw the potential, and they went to, with others, they went to the ICF, International Coaching Federation, said, "Listen, we can make this work." And at the time, organizations like ORSC were only focused on individuals. Now they've jumped on the team bandwagon, just because this is the fastest growing segment of coaching, because of how powerful it is and because of the impact it has. But in 20 years, what we have found based on the diagnostic, Darcy, is that only 10% of teams are self-reported high performing.
Hmm.
That means that they are able to sustain the productivity. And it doesn't, if you're a government agency, if you're in the military, if you're in the library, or you're a nonprofit, it doesn't matter. What productivity means is your ability to achieve the mission, to provide the services to the community. Only 10% are able to do that at a sustainable level. You might be able to do it for a year or a month, but how do you do it year after year after year? Well, it creates you have to have certain conditions on the team to maintain that, so the burnout doesn't happen, all these things. In 2024, January, Harvard Business Review published a study of 1,000 teams, and they found only 8.9% were high performing. I spoke with the chief psychologist of Qualtrics, which is a company that helps organizations measure all their data, top to bottom. And they have their own data that says, of their 1,500 clients, Qualtrics, the Venn diagram of those that have been profitable for 3 years, a minimum of 3 years, and have a great or positive culture, is only 4.7%. McKinsey and Company, the most optimistic of the research, when they people who were working with McKinsey, they surveyed them. The senior executives said that only 20% of their executive teams were high performing. So there is a team performance problem. And that's really why TCI exists today. And as a company, we have been around, as I said, for 20 years. We have over 20,000 cases of teams that we can refer to. We've done over 4,000 team diagnostic reports. We have certified coaches in 45 countries. Our diagnostic is available in 22 languages. There are people on this call from Europe, from Asia, from North and South, America, and no matter where this system goes, it works. Darcy and I are coming to you from the United States, but this system that Phil and Alexis created have really impacted millions of people throughout the world, and I want to show you just an example of what that diagnostic looks like. it has multiple layers. I'm skipping ahead, if you will. Any thoughts while I'm pulling that up?
I think it's powerful statistics, and it absolutely aligns with what we see in our research, working with teams as well.
Yeah. Um, here's this is when we talked about the diagnostic, the team will, it's so fun when the team sees itself for the very first time, but this is when they become aware of where they are. And if you look on the left there, the multicolored quadrant, we call that the team, different team universes. If you think of high productivity on the right, low on the left, and high positivity on the top and low positivity on the bottom right quadrant is the high productivity, low positivity. And that's a quadrant that many are familiar with in today's world because we live in this Bonnie world, which is brittle, just nonsensical, there's so much pressure. Everybody is doing more with less. And you're now having to implement AI on top of everything else that you're doing. And so people are burned out. Management engagement is at one of the lowest levels. It's like since Gallup put their poll out this year, 22% engagement at the manager level. So there are problems with morale and positivity. But many managers fear this environment where people are too positive and not productive, right? So we ask the team where you think you are on those quadrants. And then we show them, and that white square is actually the range of what the team believes they are at in terms of a scale of high and low productivity and high and low positivity. And our goal is to take that white box and move it up as far as we possibly can to the right. But we see where they're starting, and we can measure as we work with them, as we coach them. And in some cases, yes, train them and do workshops. You talked about that, Darcy, right? You do workshops, but when you do it in combination with coaching, then we can talk about how they're applying what they're learning. It's not just a workshop that ends. And then the elements of productivity and positivity are 14. There's 7 of each. And so we look at this in a different way, like this polar diagram. And very quickly, we can see where the team thrives and where the holes are, right? So this is a team that's struggling with trust and accountability. And then when they see that, they go, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? And so if you have limited time and resources, where are you going to put your energy? We can start in those areas and make an impact very, very quickly. And then we show them the data in different ways and where are the highest scores that you have and where are the lowest. And it really helps us dial our efforts into where the team needs it the most. And when you're working with a team, you want to create quick wins. Explain what I mean. I'm just throwing this out there, but you know what I'm talking about. You need a quick win. What does that do? How does that help the team shift?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the the dynamics in the team, there could be fear, there could be anxiety, there could be uncertainty, right? And so when you can get some quick wins, it increases the positivity, so that you can then do some deeper work. And so that's where, and I love how you said the team sees itself for the first time. That's where that right there is a win. That's a quick win. That all of a sudden, when I talked earlier about reveal the system to itself, for people to see like, oh, this, I couldn't articulate why it doesn't.
And they're actually relieved.
But now I see we have low trust and low accountability. Now that's part of why I don't feel good on this team.
Yes.
They see that for the first time. That is right there, an example of a quick win, just without any judgment,
Yeah.
saying this is what's here on this team.
And when you can see it, now you can actually do something about it. It's like, okay, now I understand. Now I can focus what this feeling that I was having.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Right. And so what does it look like to have lack of accountability? If we had more accountability, how would we know? If we improved the trust, what would be different? What's getting in the way of that?
Those of you who are listening, she is asking questions that she would absolutely ask of the team. So not only is she asking a question. So Darcy, once you show those that data, what are some of the things that you say to the team instead of
Well,
just saying, "Here you are"? I mean, right? I mean, what
first
do
of
you
all,
do?
I would ask them, what are you noticing? What surprises you? What's pissing you off? Where do you feel validated? And just giving them the chance to explore the data and make it come alive for themselves. I'm not coming in and saying, you need your trust score to be 10. I'm coming in and saying, how do you feel about your trust score? What do you want it to be? What's getting in the way of that? What, right? So helping them to make that data come alive for themselves, to make meaning of it.
I'm so grateful that you're here and you're sharing. I know with time, cannot believe that we've only got 10 minutes left. Frank did ask a question. I think we've answered it, but let's just do it again just to make sure. Um, what's the difference between training, coaching and empowerment?
Hmm. Fascinating question, Frank. The training and coaching piece I got, the empowerment piece is a fun twist. So I'll simplify it, and it's more complex, but for time's sake. Training, if I'm coming in as a trainer, I'm the expert. I've got a model, I have wisdom, I have expertise, I have case studies. Let me show you. I'm coming in as a coach, you're the expert. What do you want for your team? What's getting in the way of that? What are the values? You might have some teams who say, we're a startup and we're hungry and we're private equity, and what we want is profitability and we're going to work as hard as we can. You might have another team who says, yeah, profit's important, but we want work-life balance and sustainability. So we do not want to burn and churn. Those are two different models. As a team coach, I don't have an opinion. I'm not emotionally attached. I'm coming in to help you decide what it is you want and then create that or figure out what's getting in the way of that. So, would you add anything to that, Spencer, about
No,
training
I just
coaching?
I would add just a quick story. One of our coaches, Pollyanna Lenkich in Australia, did a team diagnostic, a team coaching with a venture capital joining with a nonprofit. Those two organizations, and it's so interesting because they each wanted what you just said, but they were working together. And how do you have those two different systems actually mesh and combine? Team coaching enables you to do that, and really quickly.
That's fascinating. I love that story. I'm intrigued with adding on the empowerment piece, and I have to be reflective of that. And feel free as I'm reflecting if you have thoughts, Spencer.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, here's what I think. How do you empower people? To me, empowerment is giving them permission, and I think coaching does that. I think it's hard to it's hard to empower. Listen, I can stand on a stage and say, you matter, but then you got to go back to your world and you got to believe it. Uh, we can say that the team has the capacity to be successful, but until we actually show you how that can happen through team coaching, I don't know that people believe it. And so, in order, we empower the team to actually make their own shifts. And to me, that's actually more powerful than a coach or a consultant coming in, because the shift comes from within instead of from without. Which is more powerful? Which is more empowering? You being
yeah.
told what to do, or the team discovering their own abilities and their own power and then making the shift themselves because you showed them what's possible just by your questions, just by your presence, just by your understanding of team dynamics. So that's what I would say, Darcy.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, let's as we wrap up here. I want more questions if you've got them, and thank you, Irene, for pointing Frank in a few places. I have put together some explainer videos, and it answers those questions. So thank you. Would you share just a couple of case studies? I know that you keep all of your clients very confidential, which is very appropriate. but can you share some stories generally of how this has worked for some of your clients in terms of time worked with them? What are the results that you and your team are seeing out there in the
Mhm.
world?
Oh, I have so many examples. And I've highlighted a couple with the municipal government we're working with the manufacturing team. We're working with a credit union and a team of three. And they had come through a big reorg, and it created some uncertainty in the system. And so this leadership team of three for one department, one division of the credit union, had let go of two of its top leaders, and two other people were brought in, and it was I would say the morale was low, uncertainty was high. And these three leaders had very different styles and some anxiety. And so, in that team coaching with this team of three, we did 6 months. When we first came in, we created the coaching plan together and said, what would it look like if at the end of 6 months, this was the best investment you ever made? What would be different? We had them identify what in this case, they came up with three coaching goals that they wanted to be working towards.
Yeah.
Their first homework after that first session was to identify the success measures. How would we know if we accomplished these three goals? And then in each of the coaching sessions, we're exploring and creating awareness and pointing out blind spots and how they're doing, what's getting in the way of that, so that at the end of that engagement they had increased trust. They were aligned. One of the things they wanted was alignment on, right, because they had come from very different backgrounds. They wanted increased trust because they were very hesitant, having had this shakeup, and they wanted to be able to have healthy communication and positive conflict instead of avoiding it, which is what before the reorg they had. Um, Very powerful. And they said, if there's nothing, it's not rocket science. And yet, had they not had the structure and support of the team coaching, they would not have made the time or known how to explore moving the needle, let alone even being able to articulate what do we want to be different. Even just saying, here's what we want in 6 months, that part of the engagement already is powerful.
Oh, I love that. Well, and here's I want to share with our audience what you just articulated is what I mean. I could tell you so many case study after case study after case study of 20 years worth of data that when you certify with Team Coaching International, you have the ability to go in and work with teams. Yes, there are lots of competencies that you're going to be learning, and in the masterclass we have one of the most incredible options coming up for you to be able to learn how to do what Darcy has been so eloquently articulating. If you are an organization that actually wants to have a team coach, Darcy, I want you to put your contact information in the chat so people can find you and reach you. But if you are a practitioner, if you are a coach, if you are an HR expert or OD or L&D, you want to get a certification that will help you work with your team or other teams on September 22nd. I want you to picture this. We are going to be at the Clayton Hotel in Amsterdam, right on the canal, 5 minutes from the Van Gogh, or if you're Dutch, the Van Gogh Museum. We're 10 minutes from the Amsterdam airport. Fly into Amsterdam, and if you are listening to this and you're in North America or somewhere, we right now will help you. We'll pay for 700 euros for help you to fly to Amsterdam to this week-long certification. We have a master class for 3 days where we're teaching you these coaching skills that Darcy has been articulating. How do you even contract with a client? How do you then contract what she just described to you with what are the goals? What are the outcomes? What are the expectations of coaching? How do you do that? And then how do you actually make that happen through the coaching engagement itself? And then the fourth day, we will actually work with real clients. We have two clients. One we had secured earlier, and the second one we just secured yesterday. And so the coaches will be split into two groups where they actually get to practice the skills, Darcy, with the master coaches right behind them there, right? At practicing the using the team diagnostic and the coaching methodology in a safe environment with a real life, not just role playing, but with a real life client. That is that's an experience that it was very, very, very rare. We have not done this for many. This is the first time we've done it in Europe ever. We've done it in Asia, and it's been many years since we've done that. But you'll have that opportunity to do that here in Amsterdam coming up just next month. And then we follow that up with the feedback on the fifth day. And then there's some ongoing making sure that you're applying things. So there's ongoing coaching and as you begin to implement it into your own practice after that. That course, if you're interested, I want you to hang around and I'm happy to answer your questions. But if there are any questions online, I mean, I would love to hang out and listen to this. Now, we promised you if you came to this, you could get your a free team diagnostic. Now, it's not actually a team diagnostic because it's not for your whole team. It's a team leader view. It is the same diagnostic, but it's only from one person's perspective. So that's obviously not a team diagnostic, right? It's a team leader view. Now, we have some chats. I need to make sure that I am not missing anybody. Thank you. Yes, it is an amazing program. And Henry, you've put a link into how to register for that. There's more information about the program. And you can also contact henry.chuck at Talent Insights Europe for more information. There's a link in there if you are wanting to learn more about it. What are the costs? Again, just can you imagine, Darcy, being there in Amsterdam?
I want to go.
Why would she? That's a great point. If you are a coach, if you are listening to this and you are already certified, come back for a refresher. We have a special price for those of you who have already been through a training and you want to just come back and refresh and re-energize. We would love to have you there. And but what you've never experienced before is the Come Alive, probably. You've maybe been through a certification, and that is something that makes this really, really unique. We, at the same time, have a webinar version of the coaching, and the master class will be done over 6 weeks, two days a week, 4 hours. But this live does the Come Alive, and that's something that you cannot replicate virtually. It's just something that you get to do in person by the canal, by the Van Gogh Museum. Just see yourself there. We really, I see Juliet. You want to come and be with me, come hang out with me, and Henry and Jane. Jane is our master coach, going to be leading that. I'm going to be leading, co-leading with her. Any other questions? Let me look online, see what we've got. Dana Adams, Spring Creek, Nevada. Thank you, my friend, for joining. Tamara Koppel from Kansas City. Oh, so Dana has a question. How do you address the dynamic of a team that seems to go through relationships issues up and down, good times and bad times, but always seems to stay too long in the bad times and can't ultimately figure out how to get along? I wish I would have seen that earlier. I think we're out of time, but Darcy, you got to go. Do you have time to answer that?
I could stay for hours with you, Spencer.
Oh, you're so sweet.
It's a great question, and it's the same answer as any other issue that comes up. Is you hold up the mirror, you name that, and say, "Hey, here's what I'm noticing," or what I'm hearing that you're noticing is that the team tends to get stuck in the bad times.
Yeah.
What's creating that stuckness? What's different when you're thriving? Right? So helping hold up the mirror, asking those powerful questions and creating a space for all the voices to be heard, not just the loudest voices, all the voices, even the marginalized, even the unpopular ones.
Dana, I know you. You are a talented man, and I would love to see you participate in this coaching because I think this is going to give you a skill set to really make an impact. Yes, and to help that team flatten out those peaks and valleys, or more peaks, less valleys. And I just want you to know, Darcy, Tamara Koppel says, I can tell Darcy is passionate about her work. I love that enthusiasm. Right? That's why I
Thank
wanted
you,
her. I love
Grandma.
her enthusiasm too. Just I just walk into this room full of people. She just smiles right away. She's so humble and quiet. Oh yeah. And then here she is, this master of the universe. She, in the national speakers world, is worshipped because she just is so dynamic, and yet when you see her off stage, she is the most real, the most amazing. Except for I can't keep up with her on the trail anymore.
Yes, you
I've
can.
aged. She's stayed young. I need to read your book. Fit.
Thank you for those kind words. I am absolutely passionate because it is transformational, because it works. It's so powerful. And this team coaching, I tell you, when I got my master's in OD, great theoretical academic based background. When I started studying team coaching and using the core competencies that they teach at TCI, that's when everything came alive of how to shift the dynamics with the team.
You brought one more point I'm going to make. There are programs out in the world today that are selling a very academic based type of team coaching, research based. And I think that's good. I am not listen. I have a master's in economics. You have a master's in organizational development. The thing that the TCI coaching does is it has an immediate impact for you to go out and be a coach in a practical corporate organizational government environment immediately. It's not about theory, it's not about academics, it's about what works. And this is such an incredible foundation to expand your career on. And I am so grateful that how many years ago? 2014. I took my first class. I got my my certification in 2017, and it has been such a great. I mean, I don't know what my career would be without it. I had no idea when I met you that you were in the same field that I was.
I
And
didn't either. We just liked each other for other reasons, and that
I
was just like a
know.
cherry on top.
We need to invite more people into this great circle that we're in, and so I want to thank you so much, Darcy. Anybody else have any questions or comments? I hope I got them all. And Dana, I hope you were there to hear that. Oh yes, he says thanks, so he was listening. Dana, you're an awesome guy. I've so enjoyed meeting you out of. I also met Dana in Las Vegas, Darcy.
I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah, well, this is when I lived there. When I don't think I lived there when I met you, but maybe I did. Well, Darcy, I know you got a full schedule, so you may need to run. I'll hang out with anybody here if anyone has any more questions. And I love you, my friend. I mean that. You are so awesome. And I just look. I take a picture with Darcy and Tamara. The smile is just it's unbelievable. She just is always so happy to see you. She's such a genuine person. I got to see her in Bali, and she just made my whole day.
It was a pleasure to be here and to, share your passion and our passion on team coaching with all of these lovely people who joined us. So thank you for the opportunity and the invitation, Spencer.
Thank you. Would you tell people how to get a hold of you if they want to
Yeah,
learn
yeah.
more
And I
about
put
you
it
and
in
what
the
you do?
chat. Yep. Our website is darcyluoma.com. I also put a link to the workshops don't work. So Frank had asked, like, what do you mean? So the whole ebook, it's free. You just have to put in your email address. And you can read about that intriguing concept. And my LinkedIn is at Darcy Luoma. So I would love to connect with all of you there as well.
Now I understand you're going to Nepal soon.
Yes. Yes, I'm in training,
Oh my
Spencer.
gosh, she's going to
That's
be
leveling
climbing up
up.
20,000 feet mountains, and that's hopefully you take pictures or write about it because you're my hero. I idolize you and all the things that you are able to do, and
And I'm
such
going to
a.
give you two good hikes in Bali that you can do
Oh
that
yes,
we did
okay. I'm looking for.
when you
I'm
go
going to
back.
Komodo National Park too.
That's awesome.
All right, you all. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us, Darcy. We'll see you. I'll hang out for just a moment. I know you got to go. I don't want to impose on you anymore.
Awesome. Thank you
Goodbye.
so much, everybody. Thanks, Spencer.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hey,
take
thank you
care.
for all the attention here, and Jane and Henry. Thank you for setting up. Goodbye. Good night. Good morning. wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all.